And is there a criminal gang operating out of the procurement ministry? It seems like yes. It seems like there is. And we're going to get there. We're going to talk about the criminal gang. Andy Lee has investigated with a couple other people, and it's all public open source investigation. They're doing it online, and the results are jaw-dropping, are absolutely shocking. First, we have to start with communists and DEI and James Lindsay kind of laying things out a little bit about how clear and present the danger is. And he's the one who coined the term HateCraft, I think. And that's the title of today's show. And I just think that this sets the stage for the rest of the things that we're going to talk about today, including Nenshi, including the criminal gang that's operating, including election stuff. You know what? I'm going to upgrade the criminal gang stuff. We're going to do the criminal gang stuff right after we listen. No, we can't. We can't because there's things that lead from this into this. Okay, so we're going to get started. There's lots to get to. Let's get rolling. First, we have to talk about the WHO, and the WHO is the vehicle by which the bad guys, for lack of a better term, just to blanket them with one kind of single paintbrush. The bad guys are using the United Nations, the WHO, to take over other countries completely. And they're completely dominated. The countries don't have any kind of choice. They have to do exactly what they're told by these unelected bureaucrats, these unelected globalist bureaucrats. And that's a bad thing, okay? And James Lindsay is highlighting this. Epoch Times is highlighting this. Lindsay is responding to an Epoch Times video, and Epoch Times says, right now, the World Health Organization is in the process of finalizing a new global treaty, which would give it the great authority to dictate America's and Canada's policies during a pandemic. That's far from its original objectives of advising national health departments. And so this health vehicle is very useful to take over places geographically, because they can say it's for your safety, comrade. Your health impacts the community's health, and if you're not healthy, then the community's not healthy, and we have to deal with that. We have to control that, and so they use it as a control mechanism. And the excuse sounds plausible enough to you because you don't want to get sick and die, and you're scared of that, right? And that's the whole point. James Lindsay says, you must understand, under this treaty, there will be no state rights to handle public health emergencies any longer. There will be no free state of Florida. Unaccountable WHO officials will wield all of that power through a plenary federal government. But it gets even worse. And he goes on. I'm going to leave it there. And I want to talk about this. Here's James Lindsay giving a speech about, he's talking, this is a 14-minute concise speech, and the speech is titled The Politics of Compliance, or How Maoism Works in Practice, as given at the 5th International Crisis Summit in Washington, D.C. at the end of February. It should feel uncomfortably familiar and gratefully clarifying. So here's just a little snippet that I've pulled out of this. If you've listened to stuff that James Lindsay's been doing, you've heard this before. This is a very, very tight version, right? This is your elevator pitch of this, and I think it's worth listening to the whole thing. The link should be in the description. But here's James Lindsay talking about HateCraft.
This idea is that you separate the population into two broad categories, the people and the enemies of the people, and then you say, well, what we want is unity. We want unity, but there are certain elements in the population who are preventing us from unity and moving into the future that we could be having, and it's their fault. The people want to move forward, and the enemies of the people are stopping them. The people want to open their businesses and go back about their lives, but the people who won't wear masks or take a shot or socially distance or close down their lives or whatever else in the COVID department are stopping them. We want to open the country back up, but we can't because there's anti-vaxxers. They are the problem, and that is HateCraft. That is teaching the compliant to hate the people who are holding them back. We did what we were supposed to do. We complied. We did not get our freedom back. We took risks with our lives. We did not get our freedom back, and it's their fault. That's the essence of the politics of compliance.
HateCraft, okay? And so he goes through and says Mao Zedong separated the people into the people and the enemies of the people. And he says here, the enemies of the people are anybody who disagreed with Mao, and the people were anybody who agreed. The people who wanted to bring in socialism were the people, and the people who were the enemies of the people were the people who didn't want to bring in socialism. Do you recognize that pattern? Do you recognize that thing, that echo that we're living through, that exact same thing that Justin Trudeau has set up in exactly the same way, the people and the enemy of the people? I wasn't going to show this Justin Trudeau video, but it falls perfectly in line with exactly what James Lindsay is saying here. This is the Liberal Party. They shared this yesterday at 5 p.m. This is Justin Trudeau speaking in French on a French politics talk show. And Liberal Party says, when Pierre Poilievre tries to take Canada backwards, we're focused on providing real solutions to make life better for Canadians. I'll just read what Trudeau says, okay? Here's Trudeau. There are some very, very clear choices. Are we heading towards a populism that wants to roll back women's rights, roll back the fight against climate change, to roll back the defense of democracy? Or are we saying, no, we're on the right path as a country with progressive values, with sensible conversations where political adversaries can always find common ground? What delusion? I mean, what is he on? Because he's not talking about Canada. On which to agree? Do we want to be a responsible country, or do we say, no, everything is broken, and leave it at that? For me, it's a choice so fundamental and important that I couldn't imagine not being a part of it. So he's laying out that we, the people, want to move forward with a sensible, progressive plan that makes sense. And he's saying that the enemies of the people who Poilievre, or who support Poilievre, or who support Mr. Bernier, although his main target is Poilievre, so this is couched in Poilievre for sure. But he's saying that the enemies of the people want to go backwards, want to leave Canada broken, which isn't the case at all. Part of the Canadian argument as well is that the opposition is somehow dangerous, that we need to be kept safe by riot horses, right? Karma Syed is, I think that's how you said, is on scene at Poilievre's Axe the Tax rally, and she says, look, the riot horses are here for the Axe the Tax rally, so you can see...
Even the horses came out to play.
Now, I don't know if this is an intimidation tactic, if these people are driving like into the Axe the Tax rally and they're being greeted by horses. If that's the case, that's pretty brazen intimidation, political intimidation, right? And scary. Scary is not the right word. It is something to note, because people in Canada believe the police are there to help you, not there to extort you or threaten you or frame you or kidnap you, or, you know what I mean? Like, by and large, for the most part, unless you've had a bad experience with police, most Canadian people believe police are helpers. And I think most Canadian police believe that they're helpers, you know, serving the community and things like that. And so they wouldn't look at this necessarily as a naked intimidation tactic. They'd think, oh, there must be something going on. You know, I wonder what's happening, right? Not realizing it's for them. But it's the same thing that I went through when people were saying Canadians are super racist. And I kept looking over my shoulder saying, us? Are you talking about us? Because we're not. And it turns out they just redefined what racism meant and just kept repeating it until we fell in line. And now their new definition of racism, everyone can agree, right, applies, but their new definition of racism is bunk. So it's bullshit, but they keep trying to make it stick. And people are like, yeah, sure, I'm racist and sexist and whatever, because I believe women are women and men can't be women. I'm a sexist transphobe. Yeah, sure, right? Racist and sexist, all get out, you know. Who cares? It's lost all meaning, because what they're doing is egregious, unbelievable at every turn. And here's a Liberal MP, and she is trying to campaign, I guess, a little bit. And Jennifer says, at this rate, they deserve to lose. Diane Lebouthier, and she's the Deputy MP, Minister of Fishing and Ocean, and the Canadian Coast Guard. And she says, yes, conservative politicians, Canadian lobster, deal with it. What? She says in French that she's in the Boston seafood show to promote Canadian seafood, and the Conservatives wouldn't promote Canadian seafood. And I think it's a weak argument. It doesn't make any sense. And she's just trying to vilify the Conservatives for political gain and to continue to drive that wedge. There's the people and the enemy of the people. And the conservatives are the enemy of the people because they don't want to go to progressive lengths to the climate change nonsense or whatever nonsense the liberals are, the thing of the day for the liberals, right? It is a game plan. They're running it and people don't recognize it, but it is right in your face, horses and all. Matthew is responding to Main Street Research, and it says new Main Street Research March poll. Again, I don't know how many people this poll polled, right? A lot of times these things are 1,000 people, and that's kind of invalid if you ask me. But Main Street says CPC at 46%, Liberal at 25%, NDP at 15%, Bloc at 6%, Green at 4%. So I've seen people saying that the Greens are going to lose their seat, and also that the Greens are going to lose both. I think they have 2 seats, but I thought they had 2 seats and then one crossed to the Liberals because the Greens elected a black Jewish woman to lead them for a period of time, and that led to somebody leaving the party. So that was interesting as well. But fundamentally, I don't think the Greens should have any seats. I don't think the Liberals should have any seats. I don't think the NDP should have any seats. And I think these polls are pretty slanted. But here's another version. Chantal Hebert wrote this: why leading everywhere among everyone may be Pierre Poilievre's greatest weakness. Wait, tell me you're completely delusional without saying you're completely delusional. And I'll say again, I'm not cheering for Pierre Poilievre. I'm just pointing out the reality of our Canadian politics. And at this point in time, it's undeniable that Pierre Poilievre is leading everywhere. And that's not a weakness. It's not a weakness. Saying that it's a weakness is trying to gaslight people, like just blatantly, nakedly gaslighting people. So that seems crazy. Dane says, happening now, the Bloc is attempting to gut the Conservative motion by removing hearing from victims and allowing the minister to avoid accountability. Why are they protecting the Liberal incompetence? Because they're all on the same team. They're all WEF. They're all installed WEF. And we're watching kabuki theater. It doesn't seem like there's actually a fight. It seems like there's a choreographed fight. Like we're watching The Matrix, right? Everybody knows it's a kata. Like a kata is a choreographed fight, basically. And everybody knows their move in the kata, and everybody, reacts appropriately. If they're punched, then they fling their body around, and it looks really convincing, but it's kabuki. It doesn't even look that convincing in our political arena, really. I've got video of this as well. Here's No, and he says, Liberals and Bloc today gutted a Tory motion to study the transfer of prisoners like Bernardo and Magnotta to medium security. There are many heated exchanges, including this one, in which Liberal O'Connell says Tory Caputo is making a fool of himself. Caputo replies that if standing up for victims is making a fool of oneself, he'll do it every day. So here is the exchange. It's a minute long.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I would really like Mr. Schiffke to hear this. This is from one of the friends of the victims. So when he reduces it from 6 people to 1, including the gutting of the victims in subpoint I, quote, and I received this message a few minutes ago, I think it's important...
Mr. Chair?
Oh, you don't want to hear that one?
Go ahead. Ms. O'Connell,
Mr.
please.
Chair, I think if Mr. Caputo wants to read something into the record, that's fine, but he is attributing a motion to Mr. Schiffke that didn't happen, so I think he should stick to his counterpoints instead of this pretty lame attack on personal attacks. We've all been able to speak our points, and he should continue to do so without the personal attacks, because he's kind of making a fool of himself in this moment.
Thank you. Mr. Caputo, please.
Yeah, I'll always, if standing up for victims means making a fool of myself, Ms. O'Connell, through you, Mr. Chair, I'll make a fool of myself each and every day, and I will show up to Parliament right here, right now, today, tomorrow, and the next day, and make a fool of myself, Ms. O'Connell.
I maybe would have finished with stand up for victims, but fine, fair enough. That was a little bit of a wizard circle. Like they derailed the reading of the impact statement in order to have that little spat. And if I was him, maybe I would have read the statement as soon as I got the mic back. I would have read the statement, and then I would have said, like, it shoves it down their throat a bit better. But you're quick on your feet, and you have to do what you do, right? And sometimes. It's like when you're driving away and then you realize the perfect counter to say to the thing that the person just said to you, and you're like, oh man, if only I'd thought about that a few minutes ago. I've had a few of those. The Bureau is highlighting this. The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is afflicted by willful blindness on the profound impact of mortgage fraud. So willful blindness means he's purposely not looking at this. And this is the reason I'm highlighting this here in the election section, is because this guy is a former senior liberal who served many high-ranking liberals. He says, as a senior financial professional who served 7 leaders of the Liberal Party, including prime ministers, I feel an obligation to the public interest to write this piece now in a troubled time. We lament that we are a nation divided under the failed leadership of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. We deserve better. The objectives of this opinion editorial are threefold and assert: 1, the Bureau reporting February 6th and 21st, 24, regarding the HSBC whistleblowers' disclosure of mortgage fraud since 2015, estimated at $500 million in questionable mortgages, is profoundly concerning. Also, the Bureau estimates that from 2014 to 2023, well over $200 billion in Vancouver model and Toronto method funds could have poured through underground diaspora networks and Canadian financial institutions into Toronto and Vancouver's real estate. This investigative disclosure by the Bureau deeply troubles concerned Canadians. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau demonstrates willful blindness on the profound impact of mortgage fraud on Canadians. Mortgage fraud is a major contributor to Canada's current housing affordability crisis. Regrettably, as reported by the Bureau on March 1st, 24, $65,000 was transferred in June 2016 after an LPC 2016 fundraiser to Prime Minister's Papineau Federal Liberal Association from over 40 Vancouver area donors. 4 of those donations reportedly came from directors of Tiger Arms. 3, there are specific actions that the federal government and the Federal Liberal Agency of Canada can take to immediately address the critical issues arising from the Bureau's reporting. So there's some serious issues. There's fraudulent mortgages. All of this is pushing up our real estate bubble, basically. The cost of housing, the cost of living is a crisis in Canada. And we could fix this, but we're not. Why aren't we? Well, it seems because the Prime Minister is ideologically willfully blind to this whole thing, and he doesn't want to see it. He's not going to see it, and we've got to move on as if that's not a problem. And Justin Trudeau, well, is going to carry on because he doesn't think it's a problem. It's all success. He wants to increase density. He wants to stop people from having babies in Canada and import wholesale other countries for growth. The whole plan for Canada is growth. 100% of growth in Canada is supposed to be foreign lured, I guess, through different programs. Like, we're not supposed to have babies at all anymore here. We're just supposed to come here and don't have babies, just work and pay taxes. That's it. Just work. If you want to have babies, go somewhere else. Canada's not the place for that. Wild. It's absolutely incredible. Let's talk about Nenshi. Nenshi is terrible. Terrible. I didn't like him as mayor. I liked him less as leader of the NDP in waiting when he was in the university. And well, now DCL says Nenshi is a disaster. He never cared about Calgary, and he certainly doesn't care about Alberta. He's opportunistic, he's immoral, he's incompetent. I can't stand Nenshi, and I think NDP is a dumpster fire. So this is going to be good. This is going to be funny, at least, right? Remember these masks, these horror shows? Nobody could take anybody seriously wearing one of these things. Justin Trudeau tried it too, and it looked awful. No, they only tried that one time. Unbelievable. Here is a remembrance of Mr. Nenshi. Kevin says, an old friend led a small business protest against Nenshi. Nenshi's attack on small businesses in Calgary. Her Inglewood rent went from $1,356 a month to $6,425 a month. We won't forget you, you piece of, garbage. And here's the Calgary Herald. It's talking about what happened under Nenshi. On Monday morning, small business owners in the city are planning to rally at City Hall to send a message before an emergency meeting of council over taxes. Our message is that this is indeed a crisis, and it's one created by our city government, says Kelly Doody, the unwitting driving force behind the planned rally. Doody has been thrust into the activist role since a chalkboard sign she set up in front of her shop was featured by Post Media and hit the collective solar plexus of Calgary's business community. Her sign simply points out that the property tax on the building that she leases space in has spiked from $1,356 per month to $6,425 per month, with the first huge increase being paid July 1st. So it's an attack on business. This is how Nenshi behaves, right? He's petty and he raises taxes and he doesn't understand business. And so he looks at taxes and rent and all the rest and says, yeah, we could raise that without any care or even an inkling of knowledge of what he's actually doing with regards to impact on business, on the community, and so on and so forth. Here's more kind of color on this. Murphy, the owner of Stash, a knitting store and school that has 17 employees, and Rick Rack Textiles, which also teaches sewing in the shop and has 6 employees, says she has a sound business plan, but it didn't account for more than 300% increase in business taxes. The city has cut me off at the knees and is telling me to reach higher, she says, who has a 5-year-old daughter, excuse me. I've been blindsided by this. No small business on the planet could accommodate this kind of thing without a lot of pain. And then she talks about how they've gone through, we've gone through pandemics, shutting down the economy. We've gone through all sorts of difficulty and headwinds running this business. And this has been the hardest, right? And so it is an anti-business government. Nenshi is an anti-business person, and he doesn't understand. If he does understand, then he's very vicious. And if he doesn't understand, then he's just stupid. Kevin says about the impact of his policies, right? Kevin says Naheed Nenshi is in his campaign announcement, says this, quote, Danielle Smith and her government are not only incompetent, they're immoral and they're dangerous. The only things they know how to do are pick fights and waste money. He's picking a fight by saying that. Like, that statement is picking a fight. Pick. Like, the only thing you idiots know how to do is be idiots, you idiot. Like, you're picking the fight, man. Like, what? So it seems interesting to accuse your opponent of doing exactly what you're doing, right? And probably people will see through it. I think Danielle Smith will probably ignore him until it's advantageous for her to address it. And like the first time she addresses Nenshi, she'll drop a load of bricks on his head, proverbially, right? Like he'll say something. It'll be like a yappy dog barking at her heels, and then she'll respond by dropping a ton of bricks on his head. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That's my prediction for Danielle Smith and Nenshi and their interaction. I don't think Nenshi's going to beat Smith. He thinks he is, because they could run cities. They can't run provinces. They can. They got Rachel Notley in. They can, but it'll be interesting to see if they're able to maneuver Nenshi into a position like they got Rachel Notley. I wonder, like, that was because the Wild Rose split the Conservative vote, right? In a united Conservative Party, that's going to be very difficult. So watch for a splinter Conservative Party to come out in Alberta to start trying to split the Conservative vote. Watch for that. That's going to happen, because that's the only way they put Nenshi in. So that's what's going to happen. Larry Brock says, let's talk about the gang. This is, Jeepers Creepers, like half an hour into the show, 26 minutes into the show. This is headline, right? This is headline stuff. This should be every newspaper's headline in the country. Honestly. Larry Brock says, this Wednesday, GC Strategies owner is back before the committee to answer more questions about his role in Trudeau's $60 million Arrive scam. That's the tip of the iceberg. And I'm talking like the little tiny tip, very tiny tip. There's a whole big iceberg underneath this. And this part is not the headline news. The next tab, I think, is the headline news. He was ordered to appear or face arrest, not the headline news. GC Strategies is a 2-person company that was paid $20 million for doing no actual work on Arrive scam. That might be a mischaracterization. Like, quarterbacking a project like ArriveCan is actual work, but no actual programming work would be accurate. But still, it's a little bit of a mischaracterization. Is that work worth $20 million? That's the crux of the conversation. Here's the headline news, okay? And I saw this yesterday, and I wasn't following Martin. He was following me, but I wasn't following him. Yesterday, he had 1,800 followers. Now he's got 32, so good for him. And he says, hey, Andy Lee, ArriveCan is the tip of the iceberg. Corporations, partners, and directors are intertwined in government contracts. Like an IT consulting pit of vipers, millions manipulated out of the system for years. Okay, so do you remember when I was telling you, like, Mark is the guy who is going to negotiate with the government? So I'm GC Strategies in this example. Mark is GC Strategies, but Mark One is another corporation. That's a numbered corporation that I own, okay? And Mark One is the headhunter. Like, Mark says, I've got a company that can do the work that you want. And I get paid for that. Cha-ching. Okay. And now Mark One is the company that I've recommended, and it's got a different director, Corey something or whatever. It doesn't matter. We're going to go through that in a minute. And so, but I own it. I make money from this exchange too. I've made money on the front end. Mark makes money. Mark One makes money too, because the government pays Mark One also to do the thing. So I get a chunk of change on the front end. headhunted this guy. I may be quarterbacking the project. Okay. So for headhunting him and quarterbacking him, I get money, but I also get money when the project gets delivered because I own Mark 1, right? And I've got my buddy sitting in the director's chair talking to the government as Mark 1, right? But I own it, right? This has been repeated. And then also the guy who's sitting in the director's chair of Mark 1, he also owns a different government contracting company. And sometimes I sit in the director's chair of his secondary company. And he makes money on the front end and the back end. I speculated about this, but I didn't have any proof. These guys went and got the proof. Do you understand? This is huge. I can't understate how big this is. I can't believe that this isn't, it looks like a criminal syndicate. It looks like a group of people figured out how to fleece the government for millions and millions and millions of dollars and not get caught until these guys with their dog showed up and unraveled the mystery, right? So going through this, on the left-hand side, you've got president, account manager. At the top, you've got contractors. Okay, so GC strategy. I can't put my mouse on things, otherwise it's going to move the image around. So it's difficult to describe. But let's start at the top of the document. It says government contractor, subcontractor nexus. We'll just follow one person. Okay, one person to understand how this whole thing is working. So the contractor for GC Strategies joint venture guy is David Yo. But David Yo is the president of Dalian, okay? And he's also president of a numbered company. And he's also financial director of Franklin Capital. He's the president of Franklin Capital. And he's the president of 3D Global Enterprises. And he's the president of Public Sector something. There's another corporation. And he's the director of Coradix. You see? So each, it says other corporations. So at the top, it says contractor GC Strategies. I'm pointing at it on my screen because I'm just trying to keep it straight. On the top left-hand side, the very top, or the second cell on the far left, says contractor GC Strategies. And then there's another corporation after the GC Strategies director grid is filled in, and another corporation after that one is filled in, and another corporation. So the top one is the government headhunter GC Strategies, and then the other lower ones are the Mark 1 organizations, the secondary corporations that they've all got fingers in, right? Like if you look at Doug Duncan, it's the same thing. Doug Duncan is Coradix high guy. He's a chairman of Coradix, but he's also the president of Black Coral and another numbered company and another numbered company, and the chairman of Mad Ads International and the chairman of Core GTA. And what else? Ted Martin. But and he's in Dalian as well. He's the chairman of Dalian. So these guys are more than double dipping. These guys, it looks like a very intricate, very, very pre-planned, very, very well-run group of people. It looks like a criminal syndicate. I don't think there's any way to get around it. And so, holy cow. Who's going to do? Can we arrest him? Like, citizens arrest! Get him! There's criminality here. I don't know that this spreadsheet proves criminality, but it proves there's a smoke, and enough smoke to be a very, very bad forest fire. We should probably check that out. So I don't have the final, bam, nail in the coffin, but I think these guys do. Andy Lee again says, why was a former senator working with GC Strategies while he was active in the Senate? And he hasn't said a word about his involvement with the company at the center of the Arrive scam scandal. Well, that's weird, right? Vern White. I wonder if he's on this. Vern White. Are you on this document, Vern? Hold on, I gotta have a look. He's not on the document, so that's interesting, but concerning, right? So why do we have high-ranking government officials working as contractors? Why do we have a criminal syndicate seemingly operating within our procurement ministry? Very, very concerning stuff. And fighting it, holy smokeronies. How do you start? I mean, you have to eject everybody. You have to get rid of absolutely everybody. Fire them all, and then start the investigation. Ian Miles Chong says, let's talk about money. Javier Milei fires his cabinet secretary of labor on live television for making a mess in delaying his review of former President Cristina Kirchner's increase of executive salaries. Milei reverted the salaries. Government officials will not be getting a pay raise while the people struggle. That's good. Justin Trudeau's getting a pay raise and our taxes are going up on April 1st amidst a housing crisis, affordability crisis, and everything else. So it's interesting to see somebody who is getting results. Are they getting results? It seems like he's getting results. I don't know if he's getting results. I'm not living on the ground there, right? I feel like I'm jealous of government that seems to be working for its people, although there have been red flags that I've seen for Milei, and maybe it's a trick, but who knows? But it seems like things are going well down there. But when you take away that many jobs, like if you remove 10 ministries, how many jobs is that? So if you take away that many jobs, there's going to be a consequence to that, right? And I was saying before, you can do it in a responsible way. You can turn one down and turn one up and incentivize private sector employment and things like that. You can do it in a way that's not harsh to the people. And so I'm interested. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful